What is going on, guys? Welcome back. More commentary for you myself. Uche, going to talk about a player Uche actually knows a little bit about. Dez Bryant. To me, Dez Bryant, interesting story, right? Guy comes in, wears a number that maybe he shouldn't have worn. Set some expectations that, to be fair, could anybody have lived up to? Little interesting that CeeDee Lamb chose to wear that number too. But regardless, this is a guy that had a very productive career. Obviously, a rapid decline that we see a lot with receivers. He goes out and humbles himself, though, picks up a one-year deal with the Saints, gets injured, and then now comes back on the practice squad for the Baltimore Ravens. This is a guy that was predominantly seen as one of the divas of the NFL wide receiver group, but I don't really see that anymore. I see a guy that understands his age, his position, his place in the sport, and is willing now to put in the hardest of hard work to earn a roster spot, but be rewarded by playing with one of the greatest quarterbacks we have currently in the league if he can get himself on the Ravens roster.
It's news. I wouldn't say it's big news. I mean, Dez Bryant, good dude. Obviously, he's been active in the NFL hemisphere, since he's been out, since he left New Orleans. See him active on Twitter, commentates online about a lot of things going on in the NFL, but this was a little bit of a surprise initially when I read that they signed him to the practice squad, but almost just as quickly I began to kind of see why it would play out that way. I mean, this is a guy who hasn't played football in a number of years. He's older. He is dealing with injuries the last time we saw him. So, it's going to be a bit of an acclimation period that's needed in order for him to, actually be in the kind of shape and in the kind of mental space to be a productive player for the Ravens. Now, I personally think that this is a move that was made to get him ready to play in the postseason. This is a move that is a long ball, long game move for the Ravens when we're talking about them wanting to get past that hump, get past that disappointment of not making it past the divisional round with the first round bye last year when they ran into that buzzsaw that was the Tennessee Titans. So I think that this is them trying to add another weapon on the offensive side, maybe as a special teams player, returning some kicks. They may want to bring Dez in to get him ready to be a productive, maybe a potential X factor at that point. But right now, yeah, he needs to get his gears back rolling and just kind of get himself back into the football life, the football work. And he's going to need to be on the practice squad for a little while.
It's interesting. I read a lot of comments that say kind of what you said to a degree, that at this point in his career, Dez can't bring a lot to the team. I think that's yet to be proven by Dez Bryant. But at the same time, let's also understand that I don't know that he creates the solution they need. You don't have a traditional quarterback there because you have an exceptional athlete. You don't have a quarterback that goes progression 1, 2, 3, check down, throw the ball away. You have a quarterback that literally plays the game as 1, 2, 3, check down. Okay, I'll make the play. So getting a receiver there doesn't remedy that. He's not going to bring that dynamic. But what he can do is help mentor some younger players that they have plenty of, can help provide that leadership because he's been there. He's been to the playoffs. Obviously, Ravens have a playoff degree to some knowledge. But at the same time, it can't hurt anything, right? Dez Bryant can't hurt a team, in my opinion, right now. Sure, would you like to bring in a more ready player? Of course. I saw some people say, why not bring back Steve Smith if you're going to bring back Dez Bryant? Well, you know what? Maybe Steve Smith isn't ready to play football or feel that he can compete the way Dez Bryant wants. It's going to be an uphill battle for Dez Bryant, I think, more than anything else. But as we talked about, if he can make the squad, if he can get into the postseason, yeah, you want fresh legs, right? He could definitely be, no pun intended, as you mentioned it, that X factor that any team would need to kind of get them over that last push. Line up Dez Bryant in the slot. What's the worst that's going to happen? He faces a defensive back that hasn't been in the league for 2 years. He hasn't either. I guarantee
No,
you.
I mean, yeah, and not to cut you off, but this is going to be a guy who's going to be in a limited role regardless. So they can pick and choose where to implement him into their game plan. That makes him more dangerous because they can find a mismatch and then exploit it. I mean, let's not forget, Dez Bryant's like 6'4", 6'3". This guy is still going to be a big target out there on the field, and if he's especially in the red zone, you're not asking him to run 40 yards down the field. You're not asking him to split the safeties on a deep post. He can run a corner. He can run a deep out. He can run a 7 or a 6 route. I mean, you can utilize him in ways that make him take advantage of his natural abilities. And then anything extra from there that he does, whether it be a special teams as a returner or, getting some yardage after the catch, that's a bonus.
Yeah, I mean, you said it yourself. You're not going to hide him, right? I mean, his reputation precedes him beyond anything else. So you're not going to decoy him. You come out in a 4 wide receiver set. Who's not going to expect Dez Bryant to go out there as the 3rd or 4th receiver? But like you said, you're not asking him to do above and beyond what he's physically capable of. What you're asking for is come out on the 30, come out on the 40, go get us a ball, cross the middle of the field, go get us the ball, get out of bounds. He's a big body. He's a big frame. He can take up real estate away from the nickelback, from the linebacker, God forbid they try to put on him. He really does provide that mismatch that, can help get
Yeah.
downfield
I mean,
if he
you
needs
can
to.
imagine Dez Bryant on 3rd and goal inside the 10, Dez Bryant covered by a slot. I mean, that's a mismatch. Like you got 3 wideouts with Dez in the slot. That's gonna be a problem for a safety or a nickel back. So there's gonna be times when they can take advantage of his talent, and it's gonna be a big advantage because of his size and because he is still a vet, an NFL vet receiver.
One thing I haven't seen anybody talk about, and you mentioned it there, and as did I, is the size. What did we just talk about with Lamar Jackson? What does he look to do? Move the ball himself. So you mean to tell me it's a bad thing to have a guy that's 6'5" to go erase a 5'10", 5'11", maybe even 6-foot corner because Lamar's going to run down the field now? I really feel like as long as you said conditioning to get to play the game now, health to stay in the game, he really could be a player that isn't going to light the whole NFL on fire. He's not going to change the whole dynamic of what the Ravens are doing, but he can be a big piece to the puzzle when it comes to actually making what they do better, which is moving the ball down the field, blocking if he has to, or giving that extra level of security to a player that needs to just find an open target with a big frame, right? He doesn't have to come in and lead them to a Super Bowl. He doesn't have to come in, be the motivational leader of the team. They're not asking him to do that. When you look at the option between maybe him or Antonio Brown, I think this was by far the better decision. So with that said, we appreciate you guys watching this. If you want anything covered, if you have a story, if you want to talk about a trade, if you want to know Uchi's thoughts about the Jaguar season, whether it's this one or the past ones, maybe you don't want to hear that. Maybe we don't need a big negative channel, but leave it down. Leave it down in the description. And I promise you at some point, we'll get to that question and be back in the week with more comments.